Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joshsnipes, and if you really like the channel, you really like tips and tricks and guides and all those sorts of things that go with that, make sure to hit the like button right there. All right, perfect. Now that we've done that, let's hop right into the series. Now, How to Play an Operator, as you saw from the title, is a series that I started with How to Play a Bonnet, and I plan to carry out through all the operators. I feel like at some point I'm going to have to go remake some of the older videos since they already are kind of outdated, given that there has been some changes. And with that, if there's either nerfs or buffs, I'll leave a Wikipedia link down either in the comments or description. You guys will definitely know where they are by the time the video comes out, but make sure to check that out because there's probably some change if you're watching this video and it's a couple months old. Also, one thing I'd like to point out that this is how to play an operator within a team environment and sort of the role that you will fill within that team. Now, these views are subjective to what I've seen on Pro League, Challenger League, Go Fours, how I play and how I've seen others play, but overall, I think that this is the best information that I feel like I can come up with. Now remember, different regions have different play styles and individual players have personal preferences for operators, but overall, this is how I think that you should play the operator. Now, let's do how to play Zofia. Now, Zofia came with Operation White Noise. If you don't know, that's year 2, season 4. That is also when Vigil and Dokubi came out. So she was the third operator on this lineup. She was sort of the odd one out in this season, and just like Ella, she was that third operator. Now, Ella and Zofia both come from the Grom unit. Ella is obviously the defensive counterpart to Zofia, and they both are sisters. That was kind of the first time we got anyone that was really related, and it's interesting how both of their abilities work on each other, and we're going to talk about them a little bit later. But for right now, just know they're sisters. Their abilities sort of interact with one another, and that's kind of one of the most interesting things that I feel like we've had in Siege in terms of the interaction between two characters. Now, the role that she's actually filled on teams as far as how she's been placed inside of the team comps that we've had, she kind of replaces Ashe, especially if you tend to play Zofia as a little bit more entry fragger-like, or she honestly is a really good flex also. She has a lot of the capabilities, she has a lot of the gadgetry to be able to do either or. I typically play her as a flex. I really enjoy that playstyle in general, so that's kind of how I play her, meaning I'll either entry every so often, or I'll usually end up helping out with the site execute, or at least getting to the site, getting the wall open, all of those sorts of things. Not only is she a 2-speed, 2-armor operator, but she also has one of the best gadgets I feel like on the attacking side in terms of what it can do, how it works, and the amount of uses you really have with this thing. I have a bunch of stuff lined up for the tips and tricks, so I'm not going to go over too much here in terms of all it can do, but let's just go over the basics of what this gadget is. Now, this is the KS-79 Lifeline, or just Lifeline for short. A lot of people usually just call it that. But one of the biggest things is that it has two types of grenades that it shoots out. You have your concussion grenades and you have your impact grenades. Now, the concussion grenades are sort of what you're seeing. You know when you run into an Ella mine and all of a sudden your screen just goes drunk and you just can't see anything? That is the concussion mine, and I'll show some of that here so that way you guys can see it. Now, one of the biggest things about the concussion mine is it won't go off on a set timer if there's no one in a room. So the biggest thing to me, if you shoot it into a room and it doesn't go off until maybe a couple seconds later after you shoot it, then that means that there's probably no one in that room within distance of the concussion mine. But the cool thing about this, if there is someone there and you do see someone, you just saw me shoot right there, you'll see the concussion mine actually go off because it goes off within proximity to someone. So let's say if someone's in a corner, you're just trying to get them stunned really quick to be able to push that, you're going to see it go off immediately as it crosses their pathway. Another thing I want to point out is that the impact grenades are sort of similar to impact grenades on the defender side. So they kind of do the same amount of damage. They have almost the same impact hole when it hits a softball. It essentially is an impact grenade on the defending side. It's just using a launcher instead of actually throwing it. Now, one thing that is unique to Zofia that I feel like they didn't need to add this on there, but they just did anyways, is that she can actually pick herself up. So let's say you get shot, you get put in a down but not out state, so you're not dead necessarily, but you can't shoot. That state, well, when you get downed like that, you can actually pick yourself back up. Now, it's about double the time of Doc's stim pistol when you get picked up by Doc's stim pistol, but let's say you get down behind cover, there's no teammates around you, and you have time. You just got to hit the key to be able to actually get up. It's not any harder than that. And the craziest part is sometimes people forget about this and you end up getting a kill because they think you're down. They're going to go defuse or something like that. And that's one of the most interesting parts when that happens. Is that does happen every so often, so you might get lucky when this happens, but that's the biggest thing to me, I feel like, is why Zofia and why I love her so much, is that ability to not be out of the fight just quite yet and be able to pick yourself back up. They really didn't need to add that to her, but I feel like they're like, what more can we not give her? I mean, we just have so many things, ideas that we want to give her, that let's just throw it on her. Let's see what happens. But when you pick yourself back up, you do get 5 HP, so it's not a lot of health. In reality, it's 1 bullet for most, if not every single gun, but it's enough to at least get you up and get you back in the fight, so you can maybe at least hold an angle or try and do something that way. Now, lastly, before we head on over to the loadout, let's talk about some of the synergies that I think she has. One of the biggest things is that if you're using Finka, let's say you concuss your own teammate or something, Finka can actually use her ability to pretty much get rid of that concussion effect and help you out. It also, if you have the Finka boost on and you say run in, shoot your concussion mine at someone and still trying to gun those guys, if you're Zofia, you can still at least reduce the effect of that concussion mine going off around you, so that way you can at least be in a little bit better odds when you're going into this fight. Now, the other synergies I'd really say is anywhere where a soft breacher would really help out. So think if you're attacking the consulate basement, having a buck or someone above in piano trying to get the wall, get the bandit off the wall, get the kaid off the wall, whichever. That's really, really helpful. But as far as that, those are the only 2 real synergies she has. She really is just sort of an all-around character, but she just doesn't have anything that she specifically needs to do with another character in order to be successful. Now, let's take a look at her loadout. Now, besides the lifeline, you have 2 primaries you can choose from. You have the LMGE and the M762. Now, the LMGE is sort of a smaller light machine gun that has around 150 round box mag on the bottom of it. So honestly, if you're going to be spraying and praying, this is probably the gun for you. I would normally not run this gun just because I don't feel like it's as good as her M762. The M762 is honestly one of the best guns that I feel like you can get on the attacking side. And it has all the things to boot with it. It doesn't have a ton of recoil. It has an ACOG. You can either use the vertical grip or sort of the angled / stubby grip that they kind of give you. You can also use a comp or a flash or a muzzle brake on it. So there's no reason really, I feel like, to use the LMGE. Although if you're into the LMGE, I guess there's nothing wrong with it. It really is not a bad LMG as far as LMGs go in the game. It's pretty fair, I would say, but I just normally will pick the M762 over that gun to begin with. Now, taking a look at the secondary, you only get 1 secondary to choose from. That is going to be the RG15. Now, what makes the RG15 such a cool pistol to use as a secondary is it actually has a red dot sight. Now, if you've never used the gun before, it actually is, as far as pistols go, pretty good. The recoil is not bad at all. I feel like in terms of its damage, it does enough as a pistol. With the red dot sight, I feel like it's a lot easier to hit headshots than with guns such as like the CZ or maybe even the Desert Eagle, where you don't necessarily have the best iron sights possible. Having the red dot sight, and it's a really good red dot sight, helps out a lot when you're trying to find the head. Now, you have 2 gadgets that you get to choose from as well, and that is going to be the Claymore and the Breach Charge. Now, depending on how you plan on playing Zofia throughout the round, that is really going to be what you end up taking in the end. If you think you're going to play back a little bit more, play a little bit more passive, Claymore is probably going to help you and your team out a lot more than, say, Breach Charges. But if you plan on getting in, opening up the floor above a site, or maybe trying to just open up lines of sight through soft walls, the Breach Charge might be what you need. In the end, you do have impact grenades. You have 2 of them, so you might not need the Breach Charges, but sometimes people like to take the Breach Charge just to open that much more. Now, really quickly, before we head on over to tips and tricks, I just wanted to make a comment about the counters and then kind of what she counters herself. Now, one of the biggest things is that you are countered by Ymay's gadget or the Jaeger ADS. Either one is going to technically eat your concussion grenade, your impact grenade, whichever one you decide to use. It's just going to do it obviously a little bit differently depending on which one is actually planted on a doorway, a window, wherever you're trying to shoot it into the room that you're in, whatever it might be. So just be wary of that. You're not going to be able to get around a Yma, you're not going to be able to get around an ADS, but just be wary of that because that can lose you some vital utility in the end. Now, one of the things that she counters, and I feel like this is very important, is she can get rid of Maestro cams. So Maestro cam, bulletproof cams, barbed wire / anything you can kind of put in a doorway. So think of, people usually will stack like a barbed wire and a lesion mine or a goo mine maybe. Anything like that a grenade would normally be able to take out, an impact grenade can also take that out as well. Now, deployable shields and Goyo shields are both very, very big targets when it comes to using Zofia, because you kind of want to get rid of those deployables, especially if it's a Goyo shield, because that means even more problems for your team later down the line if you do not end up getting rid of it. Now, let's head on over to the most important part of this video, the part you guys have all been waiting for, the tips and tricks. I have a bunch. I hope that this really helps you guys all out. But without further ado, tips and tricks. So looking over at the first one, we're going to be taking a look at how to stop someone from bandit tricking. This is really helpful when you pair this with a Thatcher and a Thermite. Obviously, Thatcher, Thermite, they're going to be trying to get the wall open. The Thatcher will be able to actually get the bandits off the wall initially, and then basically your job as a Zofia is to prevent him from putting them back on. Obviously, this doesn't work against Kaid because Kaid doesn't really have to put them down. He just throws his Electro Claw. But this is just to show you guys really quickly what exactly that will look like from Bandit and from Zofia's side. This is obviously on Clubhouse, so it's just to give you the example. So basically what you're trying to do is time it so the EMP will go off, get rid of the bandits, and then as soon as he goes to put it down, it'll actually stun him out of the animation. And if you time this correctly and shoot both your concussions, you will make it so that he can't actually put it down. On top of that, it'll be really, really, really hard for him to run away. So make sure you guys are using this trick when you guys are playing on maps like Clubhouse, Chalet. There's a couple other maps where there are vent holes right next to the main wall. Now I'm just going to pull up a clip from earlier in the video and just to show you guys really quickly what the Ella mine and how it goes off and what it actually ends up looking like. But basically what you just saw right here is how quickly Zofia gets over that Ella mine charge actually going off. It is significantly quicker than if you're any other operator. It's the same thing though for Ella. So if you stun in Ella, make sure that you guys are actually trying to capitalize on this kill because she's not going to be stunned for nearly as long as someone else just like Zofia. Now, as for the next tip that I want to go over with you guys, this is actually something that I feel like not a lot of people really know about because it's not something that's completely obvious. It is kind of a utility dump to do this, but basically what you're going to do, again, we're on Clubhouse, going to be looking at the bandit that is trying to make sure the wall doesn't get open. You can actually go below, and if the floor is soft, you can shoot both of your impact grenades and kill someone. I rarely see this get used because I do feel like it is kind of a utility dump to do this, but it's really honestly a quick tip that I feel like not a lot of people will know about, and so you might not even be ready if you're on the defender side and you get killed by this. So this is one of my favorite things to do. I love using the concussion grenades for this exact reason. Sometimes you might not know if there's someone in a room, or maybe you just hear a sound and you don't get the chance to drone because you don't want to get on your drone because you might get killed. You can actually use the concussions to just confirm your hypothesis that there's someone in the room, as well as you can stun them if they're sitting behind any sort of deployable, which actually lowers their sensitivity for a couple of seconds, which allows you to get the jump on that person. Lastly, I'm just going to show you guys really quick how to get rid of some of the utility that defenders might have. You know, you have soft mirrors, you have some Goyo shields, you have barbed wire, you have regular deployable shields, and this is just to take a look at what exactly that all looks like. I'm just going to show you guys the mirrors and the Goyo shields right now, but I think you guys will get the idea of if someone stacks a lot of utility on a doorway, you can use Zofia to pretty much get rid of it immediately, especially in a utility heavy meta that we're in right now in terms of the defenders using a lot of shields, a lot of barbed wire, cams, all that stuff. So this is really useful for that. Again, Zofia is probably one of my favorite characters to play in terms of the versatility you have with her. You can run her as a flex, you can run her as a fragger, you can really run her as a support. It just depends on what your team needs. So that's why I really like using her. But with that being said, that's going to wrap things up for today. Make sure you guys stay safe out there. I know everyone's staying inside right now, but stay safe out there. I love you guys all for the support. Seriously, thank you guys so much for getting me to 10K. Hopefully we can get to 20K by the end of the year. That would be amazing. But without further ado, that's going to wrap things up for today. And this is going to be Joshsnipes signing off. Oh God, please don't blow that. You blew it. You blew it.